Hi there, today in this video we're going to talk about some of the image formats or extensions. There are literally 100 plus of image formats out there, but for everyday use only a few really matter. Before we get into them, let's first talk about two important concepts. 2D images are generally divided into two main categories, raster and vector. So what's the difference between the two? Let's break it down. Raster formats are pixel-based. That means the picture is made up of tiny dots called pixels, and each pixel holds a color value, usually red, green, and blue. If you zoom in close enough, you'll start to see little squares, and the image begins to lose sharpness. That's how raster images are built. On the other hand, vector formats are scalable. Instead of pixels, they're made with mathematical paths like lines, curves, and shapes. This allows them to scale to any size without losing sharpness. Formats like JPEG or JPG, PNG, GIF, TIFF, RAW, HEIC, and WebP all fall under raster formats. Meanwhile, formats like PDF, SVG, EPS, CDR, and AI are vector formats. Now, let's start with JPEG. JPEG, or JPG. This is probably the most common image format in the world. If you've ever saved a photo from a camera or the web, chances are it's a JPEG. It was created in the 1992 by the Joint Photographic Experts Group, and it's designed for compressing full-color photos down to smaller file sizes. Usually, your eyes can't detect the difference, but if you compress too much, you will see artifacts like blurry edges or blocky patches. JPEG supports 24-bit color, meaning each pixel is made from 8 bits of red, green, and blue. An 8-bit channel can store 256 possible shades, and when you combine red, green, and blue, that adds up to about 16.7 million different colors. This is why photos look smooth and realistic in JPEG. However, JPEG does not support transparency, so you can have see-through parts like in a PNG. And it also doesn't support layers. Every JPEG is just one flat picture with no separate text or objects to edit later. GIF stands for Graphics Interchange Format. It was created in 1987 by CompuServe. A GIF can only store 8-bit color, which means a maximum of 256 different colors in a single frame. Which means it's not good for detailed photos but works fine for simple graphics. One big advantage of GIF is that it supports animation. Instead of just one picture like JPEG, a GIF can hold a sequence of frames that loop endlessly, making it perfect for memes and short animations. GIF also supports simple transparency, but only in a yes or no way. Pixels are either fully visible or completely invisible, with no soft edges, because of its limitations, but it's still iconic on the internet. TIFF stands for Tagged Image File Format, first developed in 1986 by Aldus and later managed by Adobe. It's one of the most flexible image formats ever made, capable of storing just about anything. TIFF can hold multiple layers at very high resolutions and supports both lossy and lossless compression. Unlike JPEG, it isn't limited to 8-bit color. TIFF can go far beyond, with 16-bit or even 32-bit floating point color, giving it the ability to represent millions or even billions of color values with extreme accuracy. That's why it's so popular in professional photography, printing, medical imaging, and digital archiving. A single TIFF file can easily grow to hundreds of megabytes, but it preserves every tiny detail. The only real drawbacks are the large file sizes and slower handling, but when quality is the top priority, TIFF remains a trusted standard. PNG, or Portable Network Graphics, came out in 1996. The key difference is that PNG uses lossless compression, so every pixel of the original image is preserved. That makes the files bigger than JPEG, but also sharper and cleaner, which is why designers rely on it for graphics where detail matters. PNG supports the same 24-bit color as JPEG, but adds an 8-bit alpha channel for transparency, which means smooth edges, glowing shadows, and images that can blend seamlessly into any background. It doesn't stop there. PNG can even handle 48-bit color for professional use. Today, whether it's logos, icons, or any graphic that needs transparency and precision, PNG is still the trusted choice. WebP, which stands for Web Picture Format, was created by Google in 2010 as a modern replacement for JPEG, PNG, and GIF. It is based on the VP8 video codec and supports both lossy and lossless compression. A lossy WebP file is usually 25 to 35% smaller than a JPEG of the same quality, while a lossless WebP is smaller than a PNG. It also supports 24-bit color like JPEG, an 8-bit alpha channel for transparency like PNG, and even animation like GIF, all in a single format. This versatility makes it very attractive for web developers who want faster loading websites without losing quality. Today, all major browsers support WebP. The only drawback is older systems or software may not fully support it. Raw image format. RAW isn't a single format but a family of formats used by digital cameras. Instead of compressing or processing the image heavily, a RAW file stores the unprocessed sensor data exactly as the camera captured it. Each camera brand usually has its own RAW version, such as CR2 for Canon or ARW for Sony. RAW files can store very high bit depths, often 12, 14, or even 16 bit per channel, which preserves thousands of times more tonal information than a standard formats. And this gives photographers much more flexibility when editing exposure, white balance, or colors without losing detail. The trade-off is that RAW files are huge and can't be used directly on the web. You need special software like Adobe Lightroom or Capture One to process them into formats like JPEG or TIFF for sharing. HEIF, or High Efficiency Image Format, also known as HEIC when used by Apple. It was standardized in 2015 and is built on the HEIC video codec. Apple made it the default photo format on iPhones in 2017, calling it HEIC. Compared to JPEG, it's much more efficient. Images can be nearly half the size while keeping the same, or even better quality. One of its biggest strengths is support for up to 16-bit color per channel, which allows much richer tones and smoother gradients than JPEG 8-bit limit. On top of that, HEIC can store multiple images in a single file, handle transparency, and even include extra data like depth maps. These features make things like live photos. Now let's talk about the vector format. PDF stands for Portable Document Format. Most people know PDF as a way to share documents. The format is also excellent at storing vector graphics. A PDF can hold text, images, and vector shapes all in one file, which makes it extremely versatile. Designers often use PDF to deliver posters and artwork because it preserves fonts, layouts, and vector details perfectly across different systems. A PDF will look the same on Windows, Mac, or even a phone, which is why it became the global standard for digital documents. Technically, a PDF is like a container that can include raster images like JPEG alongside vector graphics, making it more flexible than older formats like EPS. SVG stands for Scalable Vector Graphics, and it was introduced in 1999 by the W3C. Unlike raster images, which are made of pixels, an SVG is built from mathematical instructions written in XML code that describes shapes, lines, colors, and text. Because of this, SVG files are resolution independent. You can zoom in infinitely, and they'll never look blurry. They're lightweight too. SVG supports flat colors and gradients, but it can also handle interactivity and animation through CSS or JavaScript. The biggest advantage is scalability and editability, which is why logos, icons, and illustrations for the web are often saved in SVG. However, SVG isn't suited for complex photographs, since it doesn't store pixel-level detail like a JPEG or PNG. EPS stands for Encapsulated PostScript, and it was developed by Adobe in 1987. At the time, it was a breakthrough because it gave designers a reliable way to send artwork to printers without losing quality. An EPS file is built on PostScript code and can store vectors, bitmaps, and even text, and it can also include a raster preview so you can see what the file looks like without fully rendering the vectors. Because of this flexibility, EPS quickly became the standard for professional printing and for exchanging graphics between different software in late 80s and 90s. But in modern workflows, PDF and AI files have largely taken over since they support more advanced features. AI, which stands for Adobe Illustrator Artwork, was introduced in 1987 as the native file format for Adobe Illustrator. An AI file contains all the editable information a designer needs, including vector paths, layers, shapes, color profiles, and text formatting. Unlike formats such as PDF or EPS, which are mainly used for sharing and printing, but AI files are working files meant for ongoing design. The real strength of AI is that it preserves every detail for future editing. Because they are vector-based, they are resolution-independent, and can scale infinitely without losing sharpness. CDR is the native format for CorelDRAW, a vector design program first released in 1989 by Corel Corporation. Like Adobe Illustrator's AI files, CDR files also store full editing information such as vector paths, text, colors, and layout details. CorelDRAW became especially popular in sign making, engraving, and other industries that needed precise vector graphics. A CDR file is resolution independent, so it scales perfectly at any size. However, the drawback is compatibility of outside of Corel software. You usually need to convert it to formats like PDF, EPS, or SVG to share with others. So, that's it for this video. If you learned something new today, then don't forget to like, subscribe and comment for more videos like this.